In terms of enterprise salespeople selling in that B2B environment, selling the large corporates, multi-million dollar deals, these selling in that environment is a different world to what it was, 5 to 10 years ago because of some of these environmental selling factors that have changed. Mm-hmm. In your experience, what's the most common shortfall of an organisation with regard to the competency of their sales people? What's the most common area they're falling short?
Yeah, sure. Look, there are many, and it does always depend on the particular organisation, the industry in which they are focused, the markets and what have you. And the work that we do actually helps organisations to actually address and identify what those gaps are within their organisation through our assessment and benchmarking practice. Okay. But the requirements can be across the entire selling journey, from acquisition to that first discovery meeting and elevating the conversation away from a features price conversation, the opportunity identification and how they advance the sale. So it really is quite broad. If I had to choose one most common, it would be, once again, it's around moving that conversation to a more elevated commercial business conversation. Sure. So being able to meet the customer as a trusted advisor, bring deep domain experience to that conversation, bring industry insight, and be able to have the level of acumen to be able to have that elevated conversation with a senior stakeholder. That is the biggest gap in the market, and that is where certainly we spend most of our time in development at those sort of with high-performing sales teams, is building the acumen and the insight and the skills to be able to have a rigorous commercial business conversation. Once that conversation is progressed, then we can start to align our service and product offering with the customer's needs. But it's a customer-centric approach that needs to be considered.
It's interesting you say that, because from the research that we've done, there's two common elements that sort of link to success in recruiting salespeople. And the first is commercial acumen.
Fantastic.
So obviously industry sectors change, but what seems to be common across all the industry sectors we work in, which are predominantly white collar, IT, business services, consulting, finance, etc., is the ability to be able to have that business conversation, the commercial acumen, and to multi-layer down the questions to the whys and what fors and what are you trying to achieve, and did you know that there's actually a better way of getting to that destination that will get you there faster or cheaper or more efficiently, to be able to layer that down, as you said. So that's common. The second area that we're finding is critical to success in selling, and it's the one I'm finding organisations are struggling with at the moment, but it hasn't changed in the life of sales, is the conversion rates they're relatively happy with, from meeting to proposal, from proposal through to being shortlisted and them winning the business. Yes. Where sales leaders are telling me they need to improve is being in front of enough customers to have enough opportunities to go through that pipeline. It's an age-old problem because it hasn't changed. That's right. And different organisations are going about getting in front of customers differently. But what would your advice be to sales leaders right now facing that particular challenge, being in front of enough people to build the right amount of pipeline? Yeah, look, you're right. It is an ongoing challenge for all organisations, is fueling that funnel and building the pipeline. And with the alignment of marketing and sales, it does make it a lot easier if you've got a really proactive and effective marketing engine that's hopefully generating some inbound inquiry to be able to fuel that funnel and provide opportunities for the salespeople. But there's once again three key things I'd look at there would be the rhythm that's in place, the inspection that's taking place by the sales leader, and once again, coming back to your point, acumen. Okay. So with rhythm, ensuring you have that clearly defined sales rhythm and a process that really works for your business, and each business is different. Ensure that it's ingrained in the sales culture and the DNA of the organisation. Okay. Versus, often organisations leave new hires to their own devices. So they've been successful in bringing on, a top performer from another organisation. They assume that they have all the right approach and the skills to be able to drive acquisition activities effectively, and they leave them to their own devices. Versus really accelerating those results through a really finely tuned
and honed, predictable process. So having a effective funnel or acquisition process in place is absolutely key. Working out what really works well for your business and being really diligent with your team around what that looks like and the expectations that you have of that sales team.
Okay.
Inspection, of course, what gets inspected gets done. Yep. So, assess and inspect and then recalibrate where necessary. Just constantly be evaluating and assessing what's working and what's not working, and then realign the tactics where you need to. And finally, acumen. When you are actually in front of the customer, make sure that you're having the right conversations. And to your point earlier, Steve, that level of acumen is going to be the differentiator there. It's going to be the make or break to be able to have the gravitas to be able to hold your own when you actually have that opportunity, and you optimise your chances of success when you finally are in front of that customer, because it takes a lot to get in front of the customer.
The discipline it takes to do the required activities in a business that lead to pipeline and lead to meetings. That's what you were speaking about in the first element there. I think you called it rhythm, which I've not heard someone refer to it as that, but I like it. How does an organisation manage that without their salespeople feeling like they're being micromanaged?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. And look, it's about setting the sales team up for success. So if it's positioned in the right way, whereby it's about supporting the sales team to be able to get the best results for them, for their team, for their customers, for the organisation. Look, somebody that's really accountable and responsible for their own patch and for achieving the results, we've found, if they've got that right attitude, that achievement focus, they understand why that rhythm is important, and the rhythm is there to support them. So I guess the level of inspection is up to you, whether it's down to the micro of how many calls have been made, how many emails have been sent, how many networking events have been attended, some of those key inputs, or whether it be how many meetings have we had this month, and how have we progressed those customers through the buying cycle. So in all sales, typical B2B sales process, there are anywhere from 4 to 10 key customer meetings that would take place from the stakeholder themselves, the sponsor, the financial sponsor, the C-level executive, and each one of those meetings typically has you can really construct the key purpose and outcomes and flow of each of those meetings in advance. So it's creating a predictable process and rhythm for your sales force, both at that acquisition and fueling the pipeline stage to when they actually get in front of the customer, to optimise the chance of success for each and every meeting that they attend.
Well, it's directly linked to success, this getting in front of the right number of customers. And it's surprising to me how few organisations systematise it in the way that you're talking about to get predictable outcomes. And let's face it, you leave people to their own devices. And if it's a cold call, or even following up on a semi-warm lead, for one reason or another, us humans aren't wired to want to do that instinctively, and so we need to do it.
The majority aren't. Some people love it, and they're a rare find.
Absolutely, so a discipline needs to be created, because once they've done it and gotten out of the way, everyone feels great about it, and your pipeline's where it needs to be, and it doesn't need to be done in huge portions, but it just needs to be done regularly, doesn't it? And I think organisations that can educate through the recruitment process that we do it this way at this business, it works for us. Are you prepared to buy into it, rather than slapping it on them as a surprise? And it might be that, it's 3 hours a week. You need to dedicate time in your calendar to make sure that activity is done.
And that would go back to, of course, the important work you do in helping clients select the right profile, the right talent for the role.
Absolutely.
Being able to really clearly articulate what you're looking for in that role and what's going to contribute to success in this role. You're right, we don't want any surprises for either party. So, really mapping that out, the role profile for that team, for that organisation, and clearly articulating what's expected and what success looks like.